You're on the clock with Tyler Jennings and Jared Perkins, a Prospects Live podcast for everything MLB Draft related. Join us as we discuss the biggest stories from college and high school baseball, bring you interviews from your favorite draft prospects, and break down live looks with Prospects Live analysis across the nation. Get ready, because you're on the clock with Tyler Jennings and Jared Perkins.
Welcome to another episode of On the Clock by Prospects Live. I'm Jared Perkins. That's Tyler Jennings. I'm also not on my deathbed like last episode. We recorded that. What did we do? I can't even remember. That's how sick I was. But
it was the live reaction to the selection show. That's what it was.
I was feeling fantastic during that. If anybody couldn't tell.
Confirm. He was in like perfect state. Like never felt better. Best shape of his life.
Was so excited to do live reactions. Can't complain. But regular college baseball season is over. We are in NCAA Regional, so they're all wrapped up except one game. UConn versus Oklahoma is happening right now as we record here. What are some highlights for you from the regionals?
First off, Evansville.
That was the first thing I was going to mention.
Yeah, that was a really fun regional. Personally, it's turned on its head almost immediately with VCU shutting out Wake Forest, and then Evansville shocking ECU on Friday night with the freshmen going 8 strong, and then you get your Savage and Burns. That it was a good matchup. Don't get me wrong. I think the umpire shrinking his zone by like 2 sizes in the third inning onward was really stupid. And I think that really led to a lot of the offense that happened, like third inning
umpiring.
Yeah, like Cameron Gill should have been the final out of the third inning. In fact, he had like strike 5 on him at one point, but he walked, and then Nick Kurtz had the go-ahead single. And then Chase Burns had a little bit of issue. He did lose some feel at some point for his secondaries, but like that strike zone just got instantly smaller for no reason whatsoever.
Both guys had 4+ walks, didn't they?
Yeah, and like you can make the argument with Savage of like having at least just 1 walk.
Yeah.
Like, I think if Savage at least tied the ECU single season strikeout record, he probably should have broken it. That's just me, though. Like, I thought the zone it went from a normal zone to like you have anything on the black, it's not being called. It was pretty ridiculous. But I dissect. I walk away from that one. But other than that, like Wake Forest going 2 in barbecue. Was definitely a little bit interesting for me, especially the ending of that game. That was a really exciting ending.
They've been kind of up and down all year. Like I think from preseason, both of us and everybody else had them at the top with LSU, and the lineup just wasn't the same as it was the year before.
Yeah, and I think the best way to put it is Connor O'Neill, who's a beat writer for Duke and Wake Forest. I kind of brought this up earlier in the year, but like everybody on Wake's team had a career year last year.
Yeah.
And like you lose Bennett Lee, who was a big part of the catching, the battery for that staff too. Like he was a big part of how that staff really succeeded last year in a hitter friendly ballpark. And then you go to this year where like Josh Hartle isn't really throwing his curveball in the dirt because it's not to really trash on like Cameron Gill or Tate Balestra or anything, but like it's really tough to kind of have them block a pitch like that.
Yeah.
Where they kind of feel like if you get a pass ball, that's a run on the board. That's kind of the best way to put it. And it's really tough for that. Like Chase Burns has some struggles too early on in the year with some of the stuff being backed up, but I mean, Chase Burns turned in probably the best year he could have. Almost got to 200 strikeouts before we get to Omaha, too. Like,
yeah.
Paul Skeens hit 200 at Omaha last year. If Chase Burns had his season continue and they're going to the Supers and he's facing Tennessee next week, he's hitting 200 Ks in Supers.
Yeah. It's nuts.
And before, we hadn't had a 200 strikeout year since like, God, it feels like 2010, maybe?
Yeah. I was writing a Chase Burns MLB player spotlight the other day, and I was like, I'm out of words to describe how good he is at pitching. I don't have many left.
Plus, he had such a dominant stretch at the end of the year. Like he had 5 or 6 straight games where he struck out 13 plus.
Yeah,
That's
it's dumb.
pretty good. But credit to Evansville, man. That's a really gritty team. They really scheduled hard to get to this point,
Yeah,
and winning the Missouri Valley got them prepared for this, in my opinion. They really scheduled hard non-conference. I remember they got swept at Mississippi State at the early part of the year. But that kind of stuff matters. It really
yeah,
in postseason play because they showed up. They showed up big time. Oral Roberts was a 4 seed last year, made it to Omaha. Do we see a Evansville maybe shock the world?
could do it.
Beat Tennessee. I'm not saying it won't happen, but you got to leave that possibility open.
Yeah, I was just going through their schedule now, and they had some good out of conference games. They played some decent teams, went 38-24. I mean, they took one out of. I'm looking at this Indiana State series, right? 'Cause at the time they were ranked 14th, and they took one game, but the other two games were close. It wasn't like they got blown out in either of them. So cool to see. I love those stories. See those guys get to the super regionals. Like you mentioned, we've been waiting for a team to kind of be that upset and make it to the College World Series. So who do they go on to face? Do you know?
Tennessee. They will be
Tennessee.
going to Lindsey Nelson.
Yeah.
And kind of just looking at the rest of them, I do believe. I know NC State, Georgia is going to be at Foley Field. Kentucky is going to get Oregon State, I do believe. Florida is going to travel to, I think, Texas A&M. I might be wrong on that. From what I know, NC State goes to Georgia. West Virginia is going to be coming to Chapel Hill next week. The winner of UConn, Oklahoma is going to go to Tallahassee next week. And I think K-State's going to Virginia now because K-State won the higher seed, but Virginia, obviously being the host of the Charlottesville Regional, they got to go to Virginia for that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. Florida goes to Clemson. That's what it is because the Backage and Sully were part of Clemson a while back, and I remember that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's that. I'm trying to think of what else. I think A&M gets Oregon because Oregon won the Santa Barbara Regional. I think that's everything from what I know so far. So we're in for a pretty fun Super Regionals. And 5 ACC teams are in. I think the most they've ever had in Omaha is 4. Assuming that all 5 of them do win, that's going to be a new record for the ACC to go to Omaha.
That's cool. I love it. They always get overlooked because of the SEC. Every single year.
It just means less.
Yep. One team I want to talk about, K-State, went into Fayetteville, took the regional from Arkansas. Kalen Culpepper was the regional MVP, finished 7 for 12, 7 RBIs, 2 home runs, and hit for the cycle against Louisiana Tech. Mm-hmm. Absolutely insane performance by him. I mean, he's a guy who is a potential first rounder in the 2024 MLB Draft and just absolutely looking insane. Also, hats off to K-State, who had kind of struggled during conference play this year, struggled throughout the season in general, and they were highly ranked in the preseason as well. They're just kind of clicking on all cylinders right now, and this is the time you want to be hot.
Absolutely. No better time. You look at basketball this past year. NC State went in as a 10 seed for the ACC tournament. They won 5 games in 5 days, and they ended up in the Final Four. It really does pay off to be hot at the right time.
Yeah, you get the momentum going, and you can just pull off anything. You just never know what's going to happen. Speaking of your guys, NC State, I need you to let you take the floor on this one. Talk about your Wolfpack.
It's just a really interesting bunch because I think Aaron Fitt even talked about this earlier in his piece about the team. But this is a pretty young squad. Is probably the best way to put it. It's a lot of freshmen on this team. And then they brought in Garrett Pennington and Alec Makarevich in the portal, who are seasoned veterans. And it's just everything's really gelled together, personally, in my opinion. It did start the year off pretty bad. Matt Wilson was out for the year. And they faced a lot of adversity. Josh Hogue broke his leg halfway through the year. Shane Van Dam, who was a reliable piece out the bullpen, blew out against Florida State, I do believe. So they've had their fair share of injuries to go through, and like they've really faced it strong headed, and they've done excellent. They've really put together a solid past month or so after kind of a weird start to the year. They got swept at Georgia Tech, they got swept at Louisville, but they won 5 top 10 ranked ACC series. They're just a really, really good ball club right now, and like
Yeah.
Jacob Duden's really shown out in the bullpen in recent weeks. Derek Smith has gone from a guy that had like a 6 ERA to start the year, and he's now like the most reliable arm in that pen right now. And
I
I
love it.
believe Derek Smith and Jacob Duden are confirmed to go to Team USA this year already. So like having those two guys in your bullpen is amazing. And plus you have Cooper Consiglio, who's doing really well out of the pen recently. Eli Serrano at the top of that lineup doing really well.
That kid looks good.
Yeah, Serrano's going to be a really, really good draft pick this year.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I'm not saying to go to Omaha. I'm still kind of waiting to have my heart broken a little bit, but you know, kind of thinking about the last time we faced an SEC team with Omaha on the line, Arkansas. Had to go to Arkansas. We got to go, or not we, but like they got to go to Foley Field next week. Maybe it happens. We got a rematch of 2008.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. It'll be very fun to watch. I say that as I will probably be going to Chapel Hill next week.
Yeah.
Because you can't pass up a Vance Honeycutt JJ Weatherholt duel, man.
No.
Gonna try and pull some strings to get that one working, but if we get it to work, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really fun. I've never attended super regionals. So I'm very interested to see how this really goes.
Yeah. I've only attended a super regional once way back in the day when Arizona State played Arkansas. It's like the Brett Eibner days, just to show how old I am. He was the main Arkansas guy. I think it was like ASU had Josh Spence rolling out there. They had like just a bunch of Drew Maggi. That's it. That's how old that regional was.
Oh man.
Or super regional. The only one guy I want to talk about and give some props to, Jay Woolfolk, Virginia, absolutely electric. Like, talk about having a career game when you need it the most. Just does it in the regional, puts the team on his back, goes 8 innings, 8 hits, 2 earns, 1 walk, 7 Ks to really help get the Cavaliers into that super regional. Just an awesome performance for him. He's a kid who struggled most of the year. Every time I saw him, it was just a lot of command issues. Stuff wasn't sharp. But for him to pull it together in this big moment, I mean, that's just awesome for that kid.
Absolutely. And like you nailed it on the head. I've seen it personally. The command struggles are real.
Yeah.
Put together 8 strong innings against a very talented Mississippi State lineup. Got my approval. You really do. Like that was a special performance. And I don't think people really understand the magnitude of that too. Like it's just on that kind of stage, putting together something like that after the year he's had.
Yeah.
Nothing better. Like if this team goes to Omaha, which I kind of do feel like is the case at this point, not to say Kansas State's like a pushover or anything. They've made it this far for a reason, but like that offense 1 through 9 is ridiculously good.
It's so good.
It's one of the best in the country. That's a very tough task for a K-State team. So, you know, having that kind of arm show off in that kind of environment makes you kind of wonder, how does this go on in supers? How does this go? Say you go to Omaha, does he do the same there? Like, I'm very excited to see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, like you kind of hit it on the head with the lineup. The lineup is absolutely stacked from top to bottom. The concerns I always have was the pitching staff, and we've talked about this on their podcast, where you had Jack O'Connor was kind of opening up as the Friday guy, struggled all year long, got pushed to the bullpen. I think he might have been shut down for a little bit during the season as well. I can't remember.
So he did tear a muscle. He's been out for the year.
Right. Yeah.
He is eating bananas very awkwardly somewhere on the back of media interviews, like halfway through broadcast, which I found out is actually not a thing for him. He only did that because of the camera and the interview. So he's just funny dude. Funny dude.
But you got to give like props to the rest of the team. Like guys like Evan Blanco stepped up in the rotation, and he's become a reliable guy you can kind of throw out there. He's going to give you 5-6 innings, sometimes 7. They had other guys step up. I think Joe Savino's pitched quite a bit for them too, and it's just they've got the guys who can potentially get them there. Is it the sexiest pitching staff? No, not at all. Not even close. I mean, you're just kind of throwing guys out there and hoping for the best, and that you get like a performance like you do from Jay Woolfolk. But bats are solid. I mean, you even got like a guy like Aiden Teal on the bench who's just coming in pinch hitting and hitting home runs. So good for them. I'm hoping they kind of go far. Just being able to cover them in Charlottesville this year has been awesome. So, and I love Brian O'Connor. That guy's like one of the best, coolest coaches in the league.
Dude, he is so nice.
Yeah.
So nice. Like, and like to think about it too with the Virginia lineup, like just looking at the offensive ranks this year, doesn't really pop out on paper, but when you, or sorry, no, I was looking at the pitching staff. Oh God. They are the third best offense in the country. They average 9.6 runs a game. They hit 113 bombs as a team. That's top 10. They didn't walk a whole bunch, and that's kind of like the MO with them. They're pretty aggressive. They like to get the bat on ball, but they don't strike out. They only ran a team K rate of like 15% this year, which is really good. They hit as a team 341, which is number 2 in the country, by the way. Yeah, they're just really good.
They're good at baseball. And it's like they got Godbout and Henry Ford, who are just freshman and sophomore. So they're not even like the veteran bats on the team, kind of in the heart of that order. And I think even like Godbout's hitting like 6th or 7th at times. That's how good this lineup is. And then when you have a guy like Jacob Ferentz come out of nowhere and just start mashing baseballs behind the dish and pushes like Ethan Anderson to first base because he's just playing better defensively and mashing, and you need to get his bat in the lineup, like must be nice.
They have a really good problem in Charlottesville, man. I'm jealous. Also, funny enough, watching this UConn Oklahoma game, because I have it on in the background because I'm a sicko.
4-0 UConn.
Yeah, so a UConn hitter struck out and then apparently made it to third base on a strikeout.
Interesting.
So
how does that happen? That's a lot of throwing the baseball around.
It looks like a pass ball and a throwing error, and then the ball just caromed into the right field corner, and the runner was on his horse at that point. That's interesting.
That happening. That's like the Virginia pitching change that happened and then didn't happen when I was at that game.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
Guy comes in, throws his warm-up pitches, heads back to the bullpen. Woolfolk faces one more batter. Then they go back to the bullpen and bring him in. It must have been like some kind of batter minimum or something that I miss.
Maybe. I don't know. That's an interesting one.
Good times. So yeah, we'll find out. We'll have the full regional field or super regional field. I mean, after this Oklahoma UConn game, will be interesting to see. Gone through some of the regional highlights. The other topic we got to talk about: transfer portal. We got some names that have tossed their way. Some big names. Who's been the biggest shock for you that's kind of jumped into the portal?
I don't want to say there's really been a shock. I feel like the biggest shock is still yet to happen.
Yeah.
Like that's probably the best way to put it. The portal has been really busy today, but as the tournament kind of winds down and Supers ends and then Omaha ends, you're looking at a ton of guys that are going to enter the portal. I would say the biggest surprise for me is probably like Gavin Keelan from Louisville, and Louisville's lost quite a bit in that portal already. Like Carson Liggett, Miami's lost quite a bit. Like Jason Torres entered the portal, like Sears entered the portal, and like Sear didn't play the last half of the season because of a broken thumb. Jason Torres was also hurt for a bit. Kind of really begs the question, like, what's gonna happen in the next couple of weeks? You know, there's been rumors of some big names entering. I'm not going to name who because really at this point, kind of don't know who's going to enter the portal at this point.
Yeah,
and rumors are rumors. I'm not going to be out here saying like player X is going to go to Team Y. You know, like I'm just as clueless as everybody else, to be honest. But I think Keelan's the biggest one for me. Landon Stripling from Texas Tech didn't get enough time this year. That was a little bit of a shocker, but he's a draft-eligible sophomore. He'll get some time somewhere in probably the SEC, if I had to guess. Evan Crest has left Jacksonville after a stellar freshman campaign. He kind of struggled this year because he just got lit up. But I would imagine he's probably like a Florida State, Florida guy, you know.
Yeah.
There's some guys you connect the dots with. Joseph Zazira from Michigan State's in the portal now, too. He's probably one of the higher-ranked pitchers in the class for next year. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this goes. And kind of just looking through everything else, like trying to think. Campbell's lost a few guys. Dalen Thompson's in the portal. It's going to be really interesting to see how everything goes down. Say, for example, could Ethan Petrie be in the portal and leave since Mark Kingston's out at South Carolina? We don't know.
Yeah.
Kendall Rogers hinted at something happening there. Could it be Petrie? We don't know. We won't find out for another probably a couple days at this point. But if that happens, that would be seismic.
Yeah.
That would be really seismic.
And Petrie, even if he goes into the portal, could come back depending on what coach is hired, you know?
Something tells me they're not going to get who they want. And it's going to turn into Monty Lee is in his third head coaching tenure for a school in South Carolina.
Yeah.
And like Monty Lee's a good coach. Don't get me wrong. Like,
great dude, too.
Very good at what he does. He was coach at College of Charleston.
Yeah.
Then went to Clemson after he had a stint at South Carolina to begin with. Came back after Clemson gave him the boot, and he's done really good as a recruiting coordinator for them. And he's got PJ Orlando that's going to be, in their eyes, hopefully getting to campus this summer. And like Carson Messina's there. Could they get Cole Messina back if they really want to and have him play with his brother? That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But with the way that Cole's kind of torn the cover off the baseball, I don't think that's likely. But who knows? Like the South Carolina guys, they have some thumpers in that lineup. Petrie's a really good thumper. Messina is underrated in my opinion. Then you look at some of the other guys like Owen Tippett. He's not really a thumper per se, but he's kind of an all-around guy at the bottom of that lineup that's done pretty well. Gavin Cassis, before he had his hamate injury, was pretty good. They're in for an interesting offseason, I think, and it's going to be something. You say, I've seen some links like Chris Pollard, Tom Walter, some of those guys from the ACC want to come down. Like Pollard is a really tough one to kind of like get away from Duke at this point, because he's already turned down the Miami job last year. That's why they hired internally. And with Pollard, like his kids are in a great public school system in Durham. I think one of his sons actually just graduated. I think the oldest just did. Not to mention Duke is getting new facilities. They're renovating the ballpark at Jack Coombs. I really have a tough time seeing Pollard leave Duke at this point.
Yeah.
And like he's done a fantastic job there. Like the freshman class they have coming in this year, amazing. AJ Gracia, Chase Cruz, and all these guys, Kyle Johnson, have all been fantastic in their roles this year. And we talked about it before with this freshman crop of ACC guys. It's the strongest it's been in years.
Yeah.
Like
you don't really want to leave that.
No, like, it's been incredible to see what the ACC did this year. And like Drew Burris came in this year, won ACC Freshman of the Year. Aiden Kanak from Clemson really turned in a fantastic year. And then you just look around the rest of the conference too, like Jacob Duden, we mentioned him earlier. He's going to pitch for Team USA this year, and he's getting Tanner Houck comparisons that I've seen at the ballpark. And I kind of see it. I really do. Like the delivery is pretty similar. Fastball gets up to 99 with sink and run, sweepy slider in the upper 80s. Like I kind of do see the Tanner Houck comparisons there. So like, I don't know if I'm Pollard, I don't leave Duke. Tom Walter, debatable. I don't know much about that situation. I think at the end of the day, South Carolina's going to try and shoot for a big gun, probably miss out, and then Monty Lee is going to be the new head coach. Yeah, that's my prediction. For any South Carolina guys that do listen to this, please don't draw and quarter me if I'm wrong. I will admit to being wrong if I am, but like hiring Monty would be pretty positive for them. I think he's been around the ball club for a couple years now, and
Probably
everyone
recruited a
it's
lot of
just
the class too.
yeah, like everybody around the South Carolina team, from what I've seen today, they've like PJ Orlando even tweeted out his approval of making Monty the coach.
Hmm.
It,
Yeah.
if PJ is tweeting that, then I like they really like this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a good reputation. The only other guy I'd be curious, like probably not linked to South Carolina, but just head coaching job in general, is TCU's TJ Bruce, who's associate head coach there. Has head coaching experience at the University of Nevada. I'd be curious if he tries to jump to one of the programs that end up opening, but I don't know if he's kind of holding his time, waiting for kind of one of the Power Five conferences. But curious at what he does with his role in the future.
Yeah, I'm also interested to see if like I saw like Kevin O'Sullivan was linked
Mm,
again for like the millionth time. I don't think Sully's leaving Florida, unfortunately.
yeah.
He pulled a Supers regional out of his butt
Yeah,
this
I was
year.
gonna say we didn't talk about them in the regional.
Yeah, like that kind of shocked me a little bit. I thought Oklahoma
They were
State
a
would have
bubble team to even get in.
yeah. I thought Oklahoma State was gonna beat the brakes off them. And after watching Brian Holiday kind of complete gate,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting this. So
Nope.
I think Sully stays in Florida. I think another guy would be the North Greenville coach, the D2 school. I think it's Land. I know his first name's Landon. I can't remember the last name, but
Mm,
he would be a good fit if they want to go external. But again, I fully think that they will probably put Monty Lee. They'll rip the interim Band-Aid off and just make him the full head coach.
yeah. Love it. Now that we're basically done with some college baseball talk, got to shift our gears over to some MLB draft talk. We have the top 300 prospects list out. If you haven't seen it, go for it. Subscribe, get in there, check it out. We have positional breakdowns though. We've been dropping those on the Twitter account, on the Instagram account, so you can see who the top 5 are at each position. Should we just run through each position, go through the top 5, and then kind of give some thoughts?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. We got the top 5 catchers. Malcolm Moore, Stanford, number 1. Caleb Lomavita, California. Walker Janik, Sam Houston. Jacob Cozart, NC State. And Kevin Basil, Texas Tech. This is also going to be a nice little challenge to me on how I can pronounce names, so this will be fun.
It is.
Who do you like really sticks out on this list the most, besides, of course, the number 1 guy?
Yeah, I mean, like Loma Vita, to me, I kind of struggle with his profile a little bit.
Yeah.
Raw tools are obvious, very athletic behind the dish. Really, I think it's above average raw power at this point. He just chases at such a high rate. I'm kind of like, I've had to pump the brakes a little bit on how much I like that profile. And
Yeah.
for me, like I kind of look at chase rate. That's kind of like my big thing in evaluating hitter, because once you get to that AA and everything like that, you're going to be seeing more advanced stuff. And if you're still chasing at that high of a rate, it's not going to end well, at least in my opinion. So, but in general, like he's the second best catcher in this class. And this catching class this year is really, really good. Malcolm Moore
Yeah.
leading the top. The slash line's deceiving. He's been really, really good this year. Contact rate's been up above 80%. He's one of the best fastball hitters in the country. Bazell is an interesting one. We like him here at the site. It's a really advanced bat, and I wouldn't be shocked if somebody takes him higher than what we have him at. I think we have him at it was like 40 or 45.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, he's
43 is what it was. So I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. Cozart, I kind of struggle with a little bit because it's kind of regressed a little bit defensively. It's not bad, but he's still a really good framer, has a good arm, but just can't see spin. I think it's like a potential 40 hit tool with like a 50 power grade on it. And obviously being a catcher, he can't run, but I think he does have a legitimate chance to stay behind the plate. And just thinking of Walker Janik, like everything's trended up this year.
Yep.
I wouldn't be shocked if Janik's a legitimate first rounder at this point.
Don't
really
let
tough
the mid-major fool you.
Yeah, like everything's trended up. The athleticism's gotten better.
Yep.
It was really tough to kind of put him in the first round on this one. But I think at the end of the day, like somebody asked us on our live show last week, could he be a top 15 pick? I won't rule it out.
Yeah.
I really won't. Like it's totally possible it could happen. And we're still a month and a half out from the draft. Everything's fluid. Everything's going to change. Like, I'm not going to, like, with 1-1, I've seen a lot of rumors going around. Like, James Tibbs could be a 1-1 dark horse. Chase Burns could be one too. I think at this point, it's kind of all smoke and mirrors. And that's not a shot at anybody in particular that's done mock drafts recently either. Like, this is just how I kind of look at it from not an outsider view, but like, everything's so fluid. Everything's going to keep changing. You'll probably hear a new name connected at 1-1 next week at this point anyways.
Yeah.
It's kind of really tough to get cemented onto one specific rumor until a week or so before the draft. And even then, some teams don't even know who they're picking until 10 minutes beforehand.
Yeah. Royals were all in on Kyle Teal. And then they went Blake Mitchell. So
so
that could have been smoke and mirrors. They could have been just telling people they wanted Teal.
And took Blake Mitchell.
Yep.
Yeah, like everything changes so rapidly. It's really tough to get lashed onto one single rumor. But going back to the topic, like Walker Janik, top 15 pick, I wouldn't be mad if that happens.
Yeah,
I think it's good value.
Yeah. Moving on to first base, we got Jack Haggs at number 1, Nick Kurtz at number 2, PJ Morlando at 3, Jared Thomas out of Texas at 4, and Blake Burke out of Tennessee at 5. I really like this list. Big Kurtz fan. Just awesome. One of the best pure hitters with power. Gotta love it. What about you?
Kurtz has looked a lot better too. Start the year, he played hurt, had that injury scare at Virginia, came back and just tore the cover off the baseball. He looks a lot better defensively, man. I'm going to be honest with you. He looks a lot more fluid, more athletic. He's making more rangy plays. There's a play during the Chase Burns game in the 6th inning where I think the leadoff guy hit a double and the ball kind of scooted away and he started going to third. Nick Kurtz physically was like this on the ground, sideways, made the throw on the line to receiver at third, and it was
insane.
A dart. I mean, it was such a really good play. And I don't think people realized in the moment how significant of a play that was, because like somebody compared it to the Derek Jeter jump throw from the hole play that was famous all those years ago. It's a really good play. I think he's a better defender for me than Caglianone is. And like Haggs is
Kansas City.
That would be fun. Anyways, but like
first 5 teams, don't look at Kurtz. He's terrible. Awful at baseball. Anyways, moving on.
But yeah, like Caglianone's bat the ball has gotten better this year too. Obviously, like he hit a ball 119 miles an hour yesterday, and it landed on the track behind O'Brate Stadium. And then you look at some of the other guys, like PJ's interesting. He's going to be older for the class. I don't want to see his position list, but I haven't heard anything really positive in terms of like where he could end up going. Could he be an outfielder? That would help his stock a lot. And then you kind of look at Blake Burke. Like Blake Burke's been an underrated bat for years. A
lot of power.
He chases a lot, but the bat the ball is really, really good.
Yeah.
And Jared Thomas is just very underrated. He was going to play center field this year, but obviously I think it was Luke Storm stepped away, and it really opened up that hole at first base. So he's had to man that. He's also started a couple games on the mound. But for me, like it's very disciplined, lots of contact, like power's coming up. A lot to like there, and I think he's one of the more underrated bats in the scene this year. I think he's ultimately a day 1 pick, but could he be early day 2? I could see it.
Yeah. Moving on to third base. Of course, we have number 1, Charlie Condon, Georgia. Yep. Shocker. Cameron Smith, Florida State, 2. Billy Amick, Tennessee. Kalen Culpepper, K-State at 4. And Carson DiMartini, Virginia Tech at 5. That is a fun list.
That's a loaded list, to be honest.
Yeah. That's a real fun list of third baseman.
And like Condon could be an fringe average third baseman and be fine. Like,
yeah,
really good plate discipline, really robust power. Like, I still think he's the best player in this class. But then you look at like Cam Smith, like Cameron Smith's plate discipline this year has been fantastic. He carried it over from the Cape last year, has just really blistered the ball. He's been going oppo a lot more. He looks really, really good. And looking at third base, he moves fluidly. The hands are a bit stiff, but I think ultimately he's still a third baseman. But then you look at somebody like Carson DiMartini, who, yes, the bat the ball skills aren't as good as what they were last year. Like he jumped up 15% in contact rate last year, and then he went back to his freshman year contact rate. But he was lifting the ball more. There's a lot more power. It plays to the pull side. And I think ultimately he's going to be an underrated bat this year. We had him at one point as a potential first rounder. I think he might be like an early second or like a comp round pick, and that might even be too high, like in consensus with the rest of the industry.
Yeah.
But it's really, really fun. Like I understand, yes, the strikeouts are going to come with it, but he's doing what he needs to do. That was our priority. We want to see him lift the ball more, and now he's doing that. It's kind of like Vance Honeycutt a little bit, but I think it's a little bit better than what Vance is because Vance is just never going to find that happy medium as a hit tool.
You get a guy like a DiMartini though in the Dodgers system with their hitting development.
Oh God, him and Jake Geloff being the freaking the corner infielders of the future right there.
Yeah. Love it. Going on to the middle infield, we did top 10 for this one because we combined second base and shortstop. You have, of course, number 1, Travis Bazzana, Oregon State. Shocker. JJ Weatherholt, West Virginia at number 2. Bryce Rayner out of Harvard Westlake, California High School at number 3. Seaver King, Wake Forest, 4. Theo Gillen, Westlake, Texas, number 5. Wyatt Sanford from Independence High School in Texas, number 6. Then Connor Johnson at 7 from Oxford. Tyson Lewis at 8 from Millard West High School. Number 9, you got Christian Moore from Tennessee. And then rounding it out, you got Kellen Lindsay from Hardy Senior.
Yeah, that's a fun list right there. And like Christian Moore, I think we underrated him a bit on this too. Like,
yeah,
I think he could end up being a first rounder the way he played this year. And like, I understand, yes, his second base profile, I don't think he's a shortstop at the next level. It's just, I don't think there's enough arm, and he's got the range. It's just the arm strength is kind of my only concern. But he mashes. And I mean, it's ludicrous power. I could see like a 45 hit to a 60 power here. And honestly, I should have pushed him up higher on the board, to be honest with you. But like, it was so tough to figure it. Like Tyson Lewis, Carter Johnson, all those preps there really stick out. The 2 Texas kids look really, really good. And then like JJ Weatherholt, by the way, did you see the play he made last night against Grand
that
Canyon?
was insane.
I think
Cannon. It looked like that arm looked so much better than
and the slide
range,
and the play from the hole. Like, hey guys, I think he's a shortstop now.
Yeah, that was insane.
That was like that was the biggest concern coming into the year is can he play shortstop? And I think he kind of answered some questions on that one. That's a major league play that you make, and he's made some pretty good plays throughout the year as well. Sign me up for him staying at 6.
Good player, JJ Weatherholt.
Confirmed. Very good player, by the way.
Moving to the outfield again, we got 10 here. Braden Montgomery, Texas A&M at 1. Connor Griffin, Jackson High School, Mississippi at number 2. James Tibbs III at number 3. Vance Honeycutt number 4. Slade Caldwell at number 5. Carson Benji at number 6. Dakota Jordan at 7. Ryan Waldschmidt, our guy, who's on the pod, number 8. Mike Sirota 9, and then Braylon Payne rounded it out at number 10.
Wally, friend of the podcast.
Yeah, gotta love it.
Good
list also.
Oh yeah, no, I think the outfield class is pretty good this year. When you're talking about James Tibbs, ACC Player of the Year, really good plate discipline. The power's really, really good. I think he's better than Cam Smith on that Florida State roster, and I think at the end of the day, he's a top 10 pick. I can totally see it happening.
There's a lot of teams in that like 6 or 10 range that would be jumping in easily.
Yep. And I mentioned earlier the rumor he could be 1-1. If you get him under slot a lot and save enough money to get like a prep at 36 for Cleveland, I don't hate that.
Yeah.
I really don't. Like James Tibbs is like, even us having him at 12, I think he could still go a lot higher. And there's multiple teams that absolutely love him. Multiple teams that do. And he's proven to us he's not just the first baseman. He can play right field. I think that's where he starts the next level. it's just such a lovely swing too, man. I love everything about the operation.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just a sneaky good data pick. Like if he gets to say like Baltimore at 22, if that actually happens, that's the prototypical Baltimore Orioles model pick right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Be huge. We'll move on to right-handed pitchers. Just get ourselves through these lists here. Again, we got 10 here. We got Chase Burns, number 1, Wake Forest. No shocker there. Trey Savage, number 2, East Carolina. No shocker there. William Schmidt coming in at 3, prep guy from Louisiana. Brody Brecht, our college guy, number 4, coming out of Iowa. Ryan Sloan, York High School coming in at number 5. Then you got Braden Doughty, another prep guy. Joey Oki, another prep guy. Drew Beam at 8 from Tennessee. Bryce Cunningham at 9 from Vanderbilt. And then Luke Holman rounded it out from LSU.
There is one guy I want to bring up on this.
Mm.
Durangelo Sinjay.
Yes. The two-way pitcher that should probably just be right-handed.
Yep, and he's been prioritizing that this year. Actually,
That's
he ditched it later on in the year, and like he's only thrown 120 pitches as a lefty. But he's been up to 99 from the right side. There's some flat approach angle, and he can miss bats up in the zone. I think he has like a 34% whiff rate up in the zone from like the top third up. When I researched him for something the other day, slider you could put a 60 grade on it, and he's got a usable curveball and a changeup. Really athletic. I understand like Mississippi State's out now. He's just not going to make that big run, but he's shown enough over the past couple of weeks to where I think somebody's going to pop him a lot earlier than where we have him at 53. I think he's a legitimate early second round, maybe even a comp round guy at this point. And for people at the home, like understand this, like rankings and where guys end up going don't exactly mean the same thing. Like that's why we mentioned like James Tibbs could be a 1-1 pick for Cleveland, or like Chase Burns, he's 8th on our list. He could be a guy at Cleveland.
There's so much that goes into it that's like outside the rankings control.
Yeah, and like money plays a big role in it. It's been a lot more hectic now since everything's kind of happened since 2020 and the 5-round draft. Like it's really tough to kind of pinpoint exactly where this guy goes. Like you kind of at the start of the rankings, we kind of start doing like individual players and kind of see like where's the best place to put them. And then after that, you kind of like, you're just trying to get the guy in the right round pick. And even sometimes we're wrong. Like we're 99% wrong most of the time anyways. So like,
because you don't know like the guys who are told it basically teams that they're going to campus, right? Yeah. Sometimes you get those before the draft, but there's times where you'll see a guy like Cameron Johnson last year who just kept completely falling. And it's like, well, assuming that he's going to campus. So it's the same thing with prospects list for minor league baseball. Just because they're number 1 doesn't mean they're going to be the first guy called up.
Yeah.
It's good times. All right, let's round it out with the left-handed pitchers here. We got Hagen Smith at number 1 out of Arkansas. Cam Kennedy, prep guy. Cash Mayfield, prep guy at 2 and 3. Jonathan Santucci out of Duke at 4. Carter Holton out of Vanderbilt at 5. Noah Franco, 6 from IMG Academy. Johnny King, number 7. Dasan Hill at 8. Josh Hartle at 9. David Shields at 10. I'm also giving myself props because I did pretty well with all those names.
Yes, you did. I'll give you props on that. Dasan Hill I really like, by the way. It's very lanky, very projectable, been up to 96. Good breaking ball, quality changeup. Like, again, he's another guy that could go a lot higher than where we have him ranked. And I want to talk on Kennedy too. Like, there is so much actually to like with that profile. And I think I saw somebody tweet the other day is like the fastball shape's kind of bad, which 14 vertical, 12 horizontals, not the greatest shape. It's kind of dead zoney. But when you look at the rest of that operation, like it's really deceptive, crossfire, hides the ball well, kind of really jumps on hitters quickly. And you kind of got to understand like that's a big part of the equation instead of just looking at like some data points and kind of going from there. Like I can agree with you. Like, yeah, the fastball shape isn't great and you're not going to get much more out of it. It's probably going to be, he'll need a sinker at the next level, but there's a lot more into it than just like the fastball shape is meh. Like it plays up from the fact that he does have that crossfire, has that deception, really gets on hitters quickly, and he holds velo deep. Like he'll be bumping 97 really deep in the outings. So just wanted to like get that out there. Like I think there's legitimate concerns to have about that fastball, but at the end of the day, Major League bloodlines. He's related to Ken. Really young for the class. He won't be 18 until after the draft. Changeup's good. Slider is probably projectable as well. And he's got the bigger breaking ball. He's got a 4-pitch mix. That's a high schooler. He's a southpaw. Like, it's really just looking at those factors. Like, he's probably going to go higher, pretty high in this draft. He's a legitimate first rounder for me.
Love it. That gives you the breakdown of the top positional rankings for us in the top 300. That kind of does it for this episode. Again, no interviews this week. Working on some of those. We have regionals finishing up, so there'll probably be more guys that'll be available, those kind of things. So slowly working on getting a list of guys that we got to follow up with. So hopefully we'll have some interviews for you soon. Anything that you're working on that everybody should know about?
Just working on film, really.
Yeah.
I completed the Texas A&M South Carolina series from 2 months ago. Working through the Answer Side guys now, and kind of just trying to fly through it. Just trying to fly through it at this point. Get it out there. Hope you guys enjoy it. In terms of like baseball stuff, we're working on 2025 ranks. I've already got the college guys kind of in the order, or not in the order. I have the guys I want on our initial list. It's going to be 30 guys. And I don't really anticipate us putting it behind a paywall like we did with the top 300 and the top 200. Like, there's just not enough names for me to be like, hey, here's 10 players. Here's the other 20 behind paywall. Like, it's just a list to really get us out there and show us like this is who we kind of view as like the top guys in next year's class. We'll do the same with the preps. Put it out there for free, and then as we kind of get through the summer, see everybody, like we'll expand and we'll go from there. And we'll probably have a paywall up at that point, which I do appreciate everybody being super positive about that. That really does mean the world to us, because it's, this is something we all really enjoy doing, and we put a lot of work into this. Like Jared, you've been to multiple series this year. I've been to almost every single weekend at this point. I've been at the
you've been at like every single weekend.
Yeah. Rekka's been out there. Will's been out there. Jake, all these guys, like they all put in hard work. And it's really appreciative. And I'm speaking about this from everybody here at the site, that people are really being positive about this. It's like we put out the content we love doing, and I feel like we're doing a fantastic job myself. Like, I have high praise for everybody here. So thank you to the readers. Thank you to the viewers. Like it really does mean a lot for us, and it keeps us going. So, really do appreciate everybody that's subscribed. And if you haven't already, please consider it's only $5 for the draft content to really get the rest of the top 300. Some of the other stuff we're going to have. I'm going to try and do video breakdowns to where like I'll push some on the YouTube, maybe put some behind a paywall for subscribers. And even do some like written breakdowns as well. Like we mentioned Sinjay and even Cal Steven. Like I want to do those two and kind of put it into a little thing and kind of give subscribers like, this is what I see from the outside. Like I haven't seen these guys, but like I want to break them down step by step and kind of show viewers like this is what I see and where I think these guys can go. So I expect a lot more of that. But other than that, like again, thank you to everybody. Really does mean the world to us. So
and I would just read what you said. Like it means a lot to us to be able to go and do this. Like we're doing this basically for fun and because we love to do it. And we're going to have free content for you all, right? Like the podcast, still free. You got top 5, top 10 positional breakdowns. All that stuff was still free on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm going to do some MLB draft spotlights, just some written ones of guys I saw live looks for. So those will be free. Our live looks that we go out and do that the subscription to the top 300 pays for. Those written write-ups are always free for you guys to access. So we're trying to keep as much as we can from behind the paywall, just so you all still get the content that you want to use. But we're also trying to find ways that we can help make sure the guys that are going out there and really grinding get compensated for doing so. If they're spending hours of their day on a Saturday and a Sunday or a Friday night, So we just appreciate all of you for continuing to follow along, continuing to watch the podcast, continuing just to consume everything that we're doing, because it just means a lot for us.
Absolutely. Plus the film, all the films still free too.
All on YouTube. So you got access to that. But that's about it for us. I'm going to be going out to do some MLB Draft League coverage, so I'll have you some live looks coming from that. There's a couple of a few, more than a couple. There's a few top 300 draft board guys going there. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for all the amazing content from Tyler and all our other draft analysts. Till next time, we'll see you.